Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be explaining to you guys how to make the data tables and graphs to calculate the overall rates of reactions and the rates of reactions for each of the intervals. So this part here of your process data. Obviously in my previous videos I explained exactly what you needed, and in this video I'm going to be breaking that down on how you can create that. So skipping forward, the first thing that you are going to need is your table of average values that you guys should have already created in your data section. All right, so get your table of average values, okay, and chuck it into Excel. Now, the formula for the rate of a reaction is, I'll go over here, is the rate of reaction equals the amount of hydrogen gas produced divided by time. So that is the speed at which the reaction is occurring. Okay, the amount of product that that chemical reaction is producing divided by the time it took for that to happen. Okay, so we can technically calculate an overall rate of reaction by looking at the total amount of gas produced and divide that by the total time taken, and that'll give us the rate of reaction for that entire reaction happening at 0 degrees. All right, or what we can also do is work out the rate of reaction at each interval throughout that chemical reaction, because over the full 3-minute period, the speed that the reaction occurred was probably changed and fluctuated throughout that process. It wasn't just an overall continuous speed. Right? So what we can do is use our data to work out what the different intervals of rates of reaction was, and we could graph exactly when throughout the chemical reaction was the reaction occurring the fastest. Was it at the start or at the end, etc., etc. Okay, so the way in which we do that is we work out the particular rate of reaction for each interval of the value we have. Okay, so rather than looking at the total amount of gas produced and dividing it by the total amount of time taken, okay, we are going to look at the amount of gas produced, okay, at each interval, all right, and then divide that by the time of that interval. So each interval is only going to be 10 seconds. Okay, so the first thing you need to do to calculate the rates of reactions, like I said, get your table here of average values, and then you are going to insert some columns. We want there to be 3 columns underneath your each temperature value. Okay, so you just right click and press insert column like that. I've already done this, so if I come down here, you want to expand it out. That looks like this. Okay, so under the 0 degrees, I've got my mean values that I started with at the top here. All right, and then I've added 2 more columns. Same thing for the 10, 20, 30, and 40, and I've kept everything else the same. All right, I've just filtered this. Increase this out a little bit so we have some time to some room to play with these values. And remember, the formula is rate of reaction equals amount of hydrogen gas produced, all right, divided by the time it took. All right, so to work out the rate of reaction for each of these intervals, what we need to do, okay, is work out how much gas which volume of hydrogen gas is produced at each of these intervals. Okay, so that means we need to know the difference in these two numbers. Okay, it's not going to really make sense looking at zeros, but you can get the example here. The difference in the amount of hydrogen gas produced from 60 seconds to 70 seconds, okay, we went from 0 to 0.33. So in that 10-second interval, going from 60 to 70, we went from 0 to 0.33 mils of hydrogen gas. So in that 10-second interval, 0.33 mils was created. Okay. So what we can do is take that 0.33 mils, divide that by 10 seconds, because that was the interval, and that would be my rate of reaction for this interval right here. However, all right, going through and working that out in our heads or using a calculator is going to take a very long time, and I am here to show you how to do this in Excel to save a lot of time for your assignment. So obviously you can follow along with your own values here. All right, so what you can do, the reason why we added 2 extra columns here, is we can use our formulas tab. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to work out what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, the rate of reaction, I need to work out the difference between each of these numbers. All right, so obviously the difference between these 3 was 0.3. What's the difference between 1.67 and 0.3? Okay, so I need to work out how much hydrogen gas was produced, okay, in that 10-second interval, going from 0.33 up to 1.67, okay, and then the next interval going from 1.67 up to 4, how much was produced in that interval, and then from 4 up to 5.33, how much was produced in that interval. And I could just go through and work that out. That would obviously be about 1.3, okay, etc., etc. The easiest way to do that is using the formulas. So click on this first box here and press equals, like I have right here. Then you are going to right click the second number, all right, and highlight that column right here. So not right click, sorry, I'll do that again. Hang on. So that first number here, press equals, and then you're going to, control click. So click control on my keyboard, press it in, and then left click the values there. Then I'm going to press minus, and then I'm going to control click this top value right here. And then if I press enter, it's going to then give me that value calculated, which is that number minus that number, which, if obviously these weren't zeros, it would give me the difference between those two numbers. So the difference between 0 and 0 is 0, okay? But, again, that is just programming that formula. And what all you need to do now is click that little green box in the bottom right corner of that tile, and click and drag all the way down to the bottom. And what's going to happen is it's going to use that same formula for each of these, okay, and it's going to find the difference between each of these, okay. So the difference between 0.33 and 0 is that. The difference between these two numbers is that. The difference between these two numbers is that, etc., etc. Okay, and it's going to then, obviously the last number is a bit off because it's going off that, so you can see that's clearly just 0. So you can fix that one up. And now I have the values of the differences between each of these 10-second intervals. Okay, now all I have to do is do another little program here, okay, and turn these into the rates of reactions. So I know the formula is rate of reaction equals amount of hydrogen gas produced divided by time. And I have the amount of hydrogen gas produced at each 10-second interval, and the time is 10 seconds. So my formula is going to be press the equals button again. Okay, click my amount of hydrogen gas produced, so control click it, And now I want to divide that by the time taken. So divide in Excel is the /, like you can see there, the /, and then I'm just going to type in 10 seconds, right? So 10, because each of these is 10-second intervals. Now if I press enter, it's going to give me that value. Now again, we're dealing with zeros at the top here, alright, so that's not going to, doesn't really obviously matter, but go your little bottom right corner, click and drag, and it's going to emulate that exact same formula through all of these. So it's going to take each of those numbers here, and it is going to divide them by 10, alright, because they're all 10-second intervals. And here we have our rates of reaction. And there they are. These are our rates of reactions per every 10-second interval. So what that means is that is how many mils of hydrogen gas is produced per second. Okay, so in this little interval here, at the 1 minute mark, 0.03 mils of hydrogen gas is produced each second. Okay, and that is the rate of the reaction. As you can see, it starts slow, it's not really doing anything, and then all of a sudden it started. Okay, the reaction then built up and then went back down again and even off to 0. Now all you need to do is go through and do the exact same thing for each of those. Okay, so quickly show you again. This first one here equals, click the second, right control click the second number, minus control click the first number, enter, click and drag. Okay, then at the top here equals, control click your first number that you're going to look at, / divide by 10 equals, and then click and drag it all the way down. How easy is that? We've got our rates of reactions. After you have completed that for all of them, okay, all you need to do now, you can delete the rest, you don't need it, is just keep these bars here of the rates of reactions. Okay, and like I've showed you in previous videos, alright, how you can how you get around copying them out, even though, because we've used formulas, because if you go to copy these out, it won't really work. What I mean by that, if I take these values here, copy it, and put it over here, it'll give me give me zeros. It won't work, alright, because you're taking it away from the formula. So just highlight all of them, copy, go back to the where you put it, and click paste special, and click values, and then it'll get rid of all of the formulas. Click OK, and now I can quite easily copy out these values, okay, to a different table, just like that. See how it works now. Okay, so what I've done, skipping ahead, I've done that for all of them, just found these rates of reactions, deleted the rest, and I've put it into a nice looking table just like this. Okay, and that's my table. Now, same thing as before in previous videos, how we graph the mean. You do the exact same thing to graph the rates of reactions. Highlight this all. Remember not to highlight the top bit or won't work. And you click an insert, recommended graphs, all charts, line graph, this first one here that has little dots, and this one right here. Okay, and you click OK, and it will make your graph. I have already gone through and created that, as you can see here, and make sure you are clicking that plus button and selecting axis titles. Okay, and then I've got my axis titles, so time in seconds, rate of reaction in mils per second, got my title, and I've changed my data, my key here. Remember, to change a key, you click on the key, you click select data, you click the name and edit, and you can change the names. Alright, so if it's not working and you're getting, just say series 1, series 2, you can change these names to your temperatures here. And there is your graph. Okay, and as you can see, we now have our rates of reactions, and you can copy this and this straight into your assignment. Hopefully that helps. Thanks.